Ceci est un livre audio autogénéré par Google. Collection, investigation d'anthropologie prospective. Collection. Investigation d'anthropologie prospective. Déjà paru. 6 Valérie Ridde et Jean-Pierre Jacob dire Les indigents et les politiques de santé en Afrique. Expérience et enjeux conceptuels, 2013. 7 Pascal Jamoul dire Passeur de monde. Praticien-chercheur dans les lieux d'exil, 2014. 8 Jacinthe Mazzochetti dire Migration subsaharienne et conditions noires en Belgique. À la croisée des regards, 2014. 9 Julie Hermès, Charlotte Plédo et Olivier Servet dire Dynamique contemporaine des pentecôtismes, 2014. 10 Charlotte Breda, Mélanie Chaplier, Julie Hermès et Emmanuel Piccolli dire Terre, déhumanisée, ressources et climat, 2014. 11 Elisabeth Defreyne, Ghazaleh Hagdadmofrad, Sylvia Mestourini et Anne-Marie Vuillemenot, dire Intimité et réflexivité. Itinérance d'anthropologue, 2015. 12 Jacinthe Mazzochetti, Olivier Servet, Tom Boellstorff et Bill Maurer, dire Humanité réticulaire. Nouvelles technologies, altérité et pratiques ethnographiques en contexte globalisé, 2015. 13 Alice Aterianusowanga, Mexan Mebiamzomo et Joseph Tonda dire La violence de la vie quotidienne à Libreville, 2016. 14 Andrea Seriana Mayneri dire Entre errance et silence. Ethnographier des souffrances et des violences ordinaires, 2017. 15 Virginia Garcia Acosta, Alain Musset dire Les catastrophes et l'interdisciplinarité. Dialogue, regard croisé, pratique, 2017. 16 Laurent Jérôme, Nicolas Boissire, Flavia Cristina Arrojo-Lucas, Manuel Ribeiro de Moraes Jr., Josias d'Acosta Jr., dire Nature et société. Identité, cosmologie et environnement en Amazonie brésilienne, 2018. 17 Jean-Frédéric Dehasque, Clara Lecadet, dire Après les camps. Traces, mémoire et mutation des camps de réfugiés, 2019. 18 Anne-Laure Zwilling dire Corps, religion et diversité, 2019. 19 Alice Sophie Sarcinelli, Fanny Duisance et Élodie Razi, dire Espace pluriel de la parenté. Approche qualitative de reconfigurations intimes et publiques dans le monde contemporain, 2020. 20 Bernard Charlier, Christine Grard, Frédéric Laugrand, Pierre-Joseph Laurent, Saskia Simon dire Écritures anthropologiques, 2020. Introduction. Fanny Duisance, Alice Sophie Sarcinelli et Sperluet Élodie Razi. Les enseignements de l'ethnographie, du droit et de l'histoire permettent de mieux comprendre la place de la parenté dans les cultures contemporaines, tout en se greffant à la constitution de l'individu, ici comme ailleurs. Elle établit des liens qui la situent au fondement de la société. Porquer-Igenet, 2009, page 29. The Multiplicity of Kinship Systems, Form, Categories and Practices is central to the ways individuals and groups understand and experience their relationships with themselves, each other and the world. As such, this multiplicity has drawn the attention of anthropologists and other social and human scientists. Although kinship is in a constant process of reconfiguration, some recent transformations due to demographic, political, sociocultural, economic, juridical, scientific, medical, age or gender consideration have been interpreted as revolution heralding new conceptions and practices. In today's globalist context, there seem to be fundamental departures from more traditional kinship, Gourarier, Mathieu, 2016. In regard to genetic and medically assisted reproductive technology, Thomson, 2005, Franklin, 2013, New Practices in Blended Families, Martial, 2003, Cadol, 2007. And Geographically Extended Practices Among Transnational Families, Razi, 2010, COE, 2013, or Same-Sex Parented Households, Sarcinelli, 2018. If Contemporary Challenge of Kinship, Porquer-Igenet, 2009. Present some new considerations, they nevertheless share similarities with other contexts and with more ancient form of kinning in historical terms, Woody, 2001, Godelier, 2004. The same general issue arise. How do we engage with each other? How can we produce and reproduce children? How can we create kinning and belonging? Sarcinelli Gersoni 2019. From an anthropological perspective, ordinary and extraordinary aspects of kinship need not be interpreted in terms of departure and/or innovation. On the contrary, reconfiguration shows a variety of articulation between the social, the cultural and the biological, the constructed and the innate, the same and the different. Categories centrales for defining the notion of kinship, Schneider 1984, Strassern 1992, Héritier 1995, Karsten 2004. There is a need to rethink all aspects of kinship, rejecting categorization which may be abstract, essentialist and reductive. This collective volume examines the reconfiguration of kinship on the basis of multidisciplinary contribution using qualitative research methods, in Manika's ethnography. Issue explored across different places and times illustrate how ambivalence and contradiction are understood and experienced by individuals, families and other kinds of groups. Together, the chapters show the richness and the variety of research being conducted by promising young and senior researchers in several countries: Algeria, Belgium, Brazil, Korea, France, Italy, Lebanon, Mexico and Spain, and across a variety of disciplines, academic tradition or schools of thought, social and cultural anthropology, sociology, science and technology studies and law. The multiple points of view represented by the chapters that follow aim at questioning Bourdieu's notion of social space, 1984, that is the multidimensional spaces that compose the world and are built upon relation of power and the capital ratio between individuals and groups, by approaching it through the study of kinship. Said individuals and groups are defined by their position within the spaces they are part of, depending on the distribution of material, cultural, social and symbolic value. Positions are not fixed, but rather evolve according to individual or collective action. The book is divided into 4 parts according to the spaces featured by each chapter, and how the contour and characteristics of those spaces are defined. The first part explores everyday spaces of kinship, namely intimate and domestic setting, by studying the ways in which family members appropriate and create repertoire of kinship and care, as well as parenting models that offer both old and new modalities. Soronella Masdeu, Daremir and Roger examine the increasing implication of Spanish men in elderly domestic care. Alvarado and Vautier question the construction of kinship through the study of respectively the terminology used by Ludar children in Mexico and the emergence of polyamorous situation in Europe that contribute to the contemporary pluralization of family form. The consideration of these practices, ordinary gestures and interaction draws our attention to the procedural, dynamic and performative approach of kinship, to quote Martial's chapter on the evolution of models of fatherhood and motherhood in France. Part 2 considers legal and administrative spaces of kinship. This includes the application of legal expertise to studies of public administration. Acosta and Taliani on request for domestic adoption in Italy, or Fogel on the journey of an undocumented woman towards the regularization of her situation in France. Romero examines the judicial treatment of cases of incest in stepfamily in France by the relevant court of law and their jurisprudential approach. A lawyer, Trouzin analyzes the evolution of Algerian family law and its degree of dependence on Sharia regarding issues around assisted reproductive technology. The third section is about social and political spaces of kinship, in which people's intimate lives are publicized and politicized in order to contest a mainstream categorization. These public spaces are both real and virtual, including public demonstration, pride parade, meeting with politicians, newspaper publication and social media or television. The Giacometti is interested in movements for the legalization of civil marriage in Lebanon. Grilly, Parisi and Tarnowski, in some families demands for the recognition of same-sex union and parenting in Italy and in Brazil, and Lee in the reconsideration of Korean biological mothers entrusting their children to transnational adoption. The last part of the book looks at medical and technological spaces of kinship, in which DNA or other biological reference points are mobilized by individuals to define their identities, kinship ties and relations. Fonseca examines the Brazilian movement for the reintegration of those affected by Hansen's disease, which works to secure legal reparation for victims and recognition of family connection by using three interconnected technology. Deschows analyse how some firms have introduced kinship into the market economy, by studying the service and marketing strategies of European sperm banks. Finally, revisiting a classic object of anthropology, Giraud and Porcher-Igenet both interrogate the evolution of conception and figure of kinship through life cycle in France and other Western and non-Western cultural contexts, with a special focus on prenatal stage. All in all, the book calls into question the structuring of social and political order in different kinship spaces. It analyzes the link between the public treatment of kinship and its more intimate conception, discourse and practices, and how these are in turn negotiated in everyday life. The intimate spaces of kinship enable us to identify what Weber 2005 calls everyday kinship, namely the ties and relationships created through sharing everyday life and domestic economy, as well as through material and emotional consideration. However, reconfiguration of kinship cannot be fully understood without considering the broader social, political, legal, or economic dimensions that, together, shape people's lives. Indeed, ambivalence and contradiction about socially normative and juridical categorization can emerge, affecting the experience of them in everyday life. Terry, 1998 Ouellette, 2000 Finn, Martial 2010 Razi Baby Colin 2011 Baldassar Merla, 2014 Sarcinelli Simon 2019. Moreover, discussion may also emerge when individuals, families and groups carry these ambivalence and contradiction into the public sphere, which serve as a crucial intermediary between state structure and intimate worlds. This can increase their presence, visibility and recognition and, consequently, the possibilities of negotiation. Whether the seat of reconfiguration is a state or public controversy about the boundaries of kinship, i.e., who is kin and who is not, and or en intimate transformation of ties and relationships, or analyse centre on the practices, the discourse and the role of the actors. These situations must go beyond the enclosed realm of kinship group and form part of a wider framework that exists both inside and outside the walls of people's home. To that end, we argue for reconnecting state and kinship, Tellen, Albert 2017. By focusing on both intimate and public spaces, we can explore why, how, when and to what extent, reconfiguration of kinship are rooted in historical and or anthropological continuity. The empirical materials contained in the selected chapters do not allow for the examination of issues related to such kinship spaces as, for example, alternative culture community experiment in everyday setting or situation of climate change, economic crisis or geopolitical conflict that induce forced spatial displacement of people. Yet such issues sometimes appear between the lines of the book as kinship spaces, and all of the spheres that make up societies are closely interconnected in a social and human scientific perspective considering the multiple dimensions of individual and collective position. To conclude, we urge an epistemological debate about cross-disciplinary and comparative perspective, bringing together different contexts, themes or discipline in order to better understand the dynamics of entanglement of plural social spaces in the particular field of kinship, that is to say, their articulation, disarticulation and rearticulation. Bibliographie. Baldassarel, Merla L. ed. 2014, Transnational Families, Migration and the Circulation of Care, New York Routledge. Bourdieu P. 1984, Espace social et jeunesse des classes, Acte de la recherche en sciences sociales 5253, pp. 314. Cadol S. 2007, Allons-nous vers une pluriparentalité? L'exemple des configurations familiales recomposées, Recherche familiale 1-4, pp. 13 à 24. Karsten J. 2004, After Kinship, Cambridge, Cambridge University Press. COEC 2013, The Scattered Family, Parentin, African Migrant and Global Inequality, Chicago, University of Chicago Press. Fina, Martiala, 2010, Vers une naturalisation de la filiation, Genèse 1,78, pp. 121-134. Franklin S. 2013, Biological Relative. IVF, Stem Cells and the Future of Kinship, Chapel Hill, Duke University Press. Godelier Monsieur 2004, Métamorphose de la parenté, Paris Fayard. Woody J 2001, La famille en Europe, Paris Seuil. Gourarier Monsieur Mathieu S, ed. 2016, Parenté contemporaine, Paris Association française des anthropologues. Héritier F, 1995, Les deux sœurs et leur mère, Paris Odile Jacob. Martiala 2003, Sa parenté. Ethnologie des liens de famille recomposés, Paris, édition de la Maison des sciences de l'homme. Ouellette FR 2000, Parenté et adoption, Société contemporaine, 38-1, pp 49 à 65. Porquer Igenéeux 2009, Défis contemporains de la parenté, Paris, Editions EHESS. Razier 2010, La famille dispersée, une configuration pluriparentale oubliée, l'autre, 11-3, pp 331 à 339. Razier, Baby Colin V 2011, La famille transnationale dans tous ses états, autre part 57 à 58, 1, pp 7 à 22. Sarcinelli A.S. 2018, Does Love Makes a Family? The Politics and Micropolitics of Filiation Among Same-Sex Families, année sociologique, 68-2, pp 367 à 392. Sarcinelli A.S. Gertsoni C. ed. 2019, Kinning and the Kinning. Rethinking Kinship and Relatedness from its Edges, Anthropologia 6-2. Sarcinelli A.S. Simon C. 2019, With You Red Eldai, Italian and Belgian Lesbian Parented Families Klein and Strategies to Obtain Kinning Rights, Anthropologia 6-2, pp 63 à 82. Schneider D. 1984, A Critique of the Study of Kinship Ann Arbor, University of Michigan Press. Strassern Monsieur, 1992, After Nature. English Kinship in the Late 20th Century, Cambridge, Cambridge University Press. Tellen T. Albert E. 2017, Reconnecting State and Kinship, Temporality Scales Classification, in Tellen T. Albert E. ed. Reconnecting State and Kinship, Philadelphia University of Pennsylvania Press, pp 1-37. Terry, 1998, Couple, filiation et parenté aujourd'hui, le droit face aux mutations de la famille et de la vie privée. Rapport à la ministre de l'Emploi et de la Solidarité et au garde des Sceaux, ministre de la Justice, Paris, Odile Jacob. Thomson C. 2005, Making Parents. The Ontological Choreography of Reproductive Technology, Cambridge, Mi-Press. Weber F. 2005, Le sang, le nom, le quotidien. Une sociologie de la parenté pratique, La Courneuve au lieu d'être. Acknowledgement. We are grateful to the people and institutions who made this book possible, all of the speakers at the 2016 conference, the members of the Scientific and Organizing Committee, N. Colomb, J. Marquet, A. Martial, C. Simon, F. L. Tarnowski, the Faculty of Social Science, the Faculty of Law Political Science and Criminology and the Laboratory of Social and Cultural Anthropology of Liège University, the Fund for Scientific Research, FRS-FNRS, of the Wallonia-Brussels Federation, the coordinators of the Collection Investigation d'Anthropologie Prospective, of the Laboratory of Prospective Anthropology of the Catholic University of Louvain, the anonymous reviewers of the book chapters, and last but not least, the authors for their contribution. We would like to dedicate the book to Henrik Porquer Igené, a tribute to the legacy he leaves to the anthropology of kinship. His work greatly inspired our project and we are honored to have crossed his path on this occasion. Authors. Alice Sophie Sarcinelli est chercheuse post-doctorante au Fonds national de la recherche Belgique, et membre du LASCIRSS de l'Université de Liège. Elle a enquêté sur les familles homoparentales en Italie et en Belgique, ainsi que sur l'enfance et la parentalité rom en Italie, pour sa thèse de doctorat à l'École des hautes études en sciences sociales de Paris. Fanny Duisance est doctorante en sciences sociales et politiques au Centre de recherche Spirale et au LASCIRSS de l'Université de Liège, Belgique. Ses recherches portent sur les mobilisations de personnes et de groupes autour de questions de santé, de maladies rares et d'action collective en Belgique et dans l'Union européenne. Élodie Razi est professeure d'anthropologie à la Faculté des sciences sociales et membre du LASCIRSS, de l'Université de Liège. Ses recherches s'inscrivent dans les domaines de l'anthropologie de l'enfance et des enfants et de la migration, qu'elle explore en croisant parenté, corps, personnes, sujets et soins à partir de terrains au Mali, en Europe et au Mexique. Montserrat Soronelas is an associate professor in social and cultural anthropology, in the Department of Anthropology, Philosophy and Social Work at the Rovira i Virgili University of Tarragona, Spain. Her research has focused on kinship and rural studies, new rurality, women's migration, family change, and social care. Dolor Coma Daremir is a full professor in social and cultural anthropology, attached to the same institution. With a background in gender, her research currently focuses on social care, family change, social policies, and media representation. Xavier Roager is an associate professor in social and cultural anthropology, in the Department of Social Anthropology of the University of Barcelona, Spain. His research has focused on family issue, family and the household in Catalonia, family history and change in current families. Et has also worked in museology and on cultural heritage. Neira Patricia Alvarado Solis est enseignante-chercheuse en anthropologie du programme d'études anthropologiques du Colegio de San Luis, AC au Mexique. Spécialiste du religieux et des systèmes rituels, notamment chez les Mexicaneros, elle s'intéresse désormais au Ludar et est impliquée dans divers projets de recherche en anthropologie de l'enfance et des enfants, notamment sur le thème du patrimoine. Pierre-Yves Vautier enquête sur les causes sociales de la diversification des configurations et des parcours familiaux en Europe francophone, dans le cadre d'une thèse de doctorat en sociologie réalisée en cotutelle à l'Institut de recherche sociologique de l'Université de Genève, Suisse, et au Centre interdisciplinaire de recherche sur les familles et les sexualités de l'Université catholique de Louvain, Belgique. Agnès Martial est anthropologue, directrice de recherche au CNRS et membre du Centre Norbert Elias de Marseille, France. Ses recherches interrogent les redéfinitions des rapports de genre et de parenté dans les nouvelles formes de vie familiale. Après un travail sur la paternité post-rupture, elle s'est intéressée au rapport aux origines dans le champ de l'adoption. Michela de Giacometti est doctorante à l'Institut de recherche interdisciplinaire sur les enjeux sociaux de l'École des hautes études en sciences sociales de Paris, France. Croisant anthropologie de la parenté, de l'État et de l'intime, sa thèse envisage les enjeux communautaires au Liban au prisme du mariage. Docteur en anthropologie sociale de l'École des hautes études en sciences sociales de Paris, Clara Yoon-Jung Lee est membre de l'Association française pour l'étude de la Corée et associée au laboratoire d'anthropologie des institutions et des organisations sociales de l'Institut interdisciplinaire d'anthropologie du contemporain, France. Sa récente thèse portait sur la génération des mères biologiques sud-coréennes, 1970 à 1980, dans l'adoption transnationale et sur le corps relationnel comme fondement du lien de parenté. Simonetta Grilli teaches Social Anthropology and Anthropology of the Family at the University of Siena, Italy. She has undertaken research on family, kinship and migration. Her current research interests are focused on gender identity and the new form of family in contemporary society. Rosa Parisi teaches European ethnology at the University of Foggia, and is a member of the University of Genova Doctoral School in Social Science, Italy. Her principal research interests are in family, kinship, same-sex parenting, low fertility and procreative governance, family and migration. Docteur en anthropologie de l'École des hautes études en sciences sociales de Paris, Flavio Luis Tarnowski est professeur à l'Université fédérale de Mato Grosso, Brésil. Ses recherches portent sur les liens entre le genre, la sexualité et la parenté à partir d'enquêtes avec des familles homoparentales en France et au Brésil. Chiara Costa is a cultural anthropologist and a PhD candidate at the Research Centre for Children, Families and Communities of the Canterbury Christ Church University, United Kingdom. Her current research focuses on family reconnection and intercountry adoption in Ethiopia. Simona Tagliani, PhD, is an associate professor at the University of Turin, Italy, where she teaches anthropology of childhood and coordinates the Laboratory of Critical Anthropology of Migration. After fieldwork in Cameroon, she has conducted field research in Italy among Nigerian women on fetishes, ritual and death, and more recently on motherhood and dispossessed kinship. Marie Romero est docteure en sociologie et chercheuse correspondante au Centre Norbert Elias de l'École des hautes études en sciences sociales de Marseille, France. Elle y a récemment soutenu une thèse sur le traitement juridique des délits sexuels sur mineurs, réalisée sur la base d'une enquête de sociologie législative et judiciaire. Belkacem Trouzine est juriste. Il est maître de conférences habilité à l'université d'Intemouche et rédacteur en chef de la revue juridique et politique Sufa Proesidium, Algérie. Il s'intéresse à des questions de famille et de conflits civilisationnels en droit international privé, ainsi qu'aux relations euro-méditerranéennes. Frédéric Fogel est anthropologue au laboratoire d'ethnologie et de sociologie comparative, attaché au CNRS et à l'Université Paris-Nanterre, France. Ses recherches portent principalement sur la parenté et le genre en contexte de migration. Elle a enquêté en Nubie égyptienne, puis auprès d'immigreux accent aigu.es d'Afrique de l'Ouest et d'étrangers ES sans papier en région parisienne. Claudia Fonseca is a full professor in the Department of Postgraduate Studies in Social Anthropology at the Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul, Brazil, and in the doctoral program in anthropology at the National University of San Martin, Argentina. She has done extensive research among working-class families in Brazil in the area of gender studies, legal anthropology and the anthropology of science. Jean-Hugues Deschaux est professeur de sociologie à l'Université Lumière Lyon 2 et membre du Centre Max Weber, UMR 5283, en France. Sociologue de la famille et de la parenté, ses dernières recherches portent sur les nouveaux modes de procréation et la génomique procréative. Anne-Sophie Giraud est anthropologue au laboratoire interdisciplinaire Solidarité Société Territoire, du Centre d'anthropologie sociale de Toulouse, France. Elle étudie la constitution de la personne au cours de l'engendrement, avec une attention portée aux technologies procréatives et à l'intervention humaine, scientifique et technique dans la procréation. Anthropologue et historien, Henrique Porquer-Igenet était directeur d'études à l'École des hautes études en sciences sociales de Paris et directeur du groupe d'études ibériques au laboratoire d'anthropologie des institutions et des organisations sociales de l'Institut interdisciplinaire d'anthropologie du contemporain, France. Il a consacré sa carrière à des questionnements sur le rôle reconnu à l'individu au sein de la parenté occidentale dans les périodes modernes et contemporaines. Un Everyday Spaces of Kinship, les espaces quotidiens de la parenté. Un New Families, New Aging, New Care, Rethinking Kinship through the Involvement of Men in Elderly Care. Montserrat Soronella Masdeu, Dolores Coma Daremir et Xavier Roager. In this article, we analyse men's involvement in long-term care for the elderly in the family setting. We are specifically interested in the renegotiation of care in intergenerational relationships, and in the gender division of labor. The role of women in care has been extensively studied, but the ways that change in women's lives have affected the role of men have not yet been studied. Likewise, while change in intergenerational relationships have been examined, the generalist dimension of these change and their impact on care have been studied to a considerably lesser extent. Care en analytical category has been widely developed despite issue with its use attributed to the complexity of its content and the different meanings ascribed to it. Thomas, 1993. Research has emphasized not only the affective and moral relationships of care, Gilligan, 1982, Toronto, 1993, but also its social and material dimension, Carrasco, Borderias, Torns, 2011. Care is provided in a variety of institutional form, which is what Daly and Lewis, 2000, have called social care, and Razavi 2007, characterize as a care diamond, family, market, state and community. Anthropology has amply shown that, while care is present in all human societies, it is grounded in particular social relationships and its meaning only makes sense in specific social and cultural context. Care is work and care is kinship. Care at work takes place mainly in the home, and is primarily carried out by women. It is also a female-dominated occupational field that is currently expanding. Care and kinship refer to the bond through which the obligation to give care is generated. But care in turn produce and confirm kinship relatedness, Karsten 2004. Furthermore, care vary according to the individual's life course and contributes to defining the stage of life, Drobom, Albert 2015. Gender and kinship norms contribute to the definition of obligation and of behaviors considered to be socially appropriate. In other words, they construct gender and kinship from a performative understanding of both concepts. Gender is performative because it shapes the behavior of men and women. West and Zimmerman 1987 use the concept of doing gender to show that it is important to interpret the set of practices through which gender identity is expressed. Care is one of these practices and is identified with women much more than with men. Caregivers, therefore, must jump the hurdles imposed by gender. Similarly, we propose to refer to the performativity of kinship, doing kinship, since the role of carers are attributed and distributed through kinship categories, Daremir Soronella 2019. The carer role must be played and is a fundamental, privileged area for studying how doing gender and doing kinship work, as well as generational transformation. Analyzing men's involvement in care is of interest precisely because it is atypical. The logic of reciprocity in housework and care becomes explicit when the mechanisms by which care is given, returned and received are reversed, when the logic behind intergenerational relationships break down, and when the foundations that provide the basis for care in women's and men's lives are renegotiated. Men becoming caregivers break with the profound belief that women should be the carers and the expectation that women will be the carers, Glenn 2010. This article is part of a broader research project on men as carers conducted in Catalonia, Spain. The project focused on the long-term care of highly dependent adults. A total of 208 interviews were conducted for the purposes of the project as a whole. In this article, we focus on men who provide care in the family context, basing our analysis on 34 interviews, 20 husbands who care for their wives and 14 sons who care for their elderly parents. The interviews were conducted between March 2015 and May 2016 in Catalan or Spanish, according to the participant preference. Access to participants was a result of the cooperation of various organizations and institutions, relative associations, association of ill or disabled people, self-help group. The husband carers who we interviewed were retired men aged between 61 and 85 years old. The children providing care for their parents were actively employed and mostly between the ages of 41 and 60 years old. In terms of socioeconomic status, most of the 34 people interviewed considered themselves a middle class 14 or lower middle class 14. Only one placed himself in the upper middle class category, and 5 in that of lower class. The names of all research participants have been changed for anonymity. In the context, family and care in Spain. The care system that operated in Spain throughout the 20th century was based on the commitment of family members. In the language of intergenerational solidarity, the care given by women was understood as a duty, that of the younger generations, and a right, that of the older generations, Boffy Poche, 2018. It was understood that each generation would take care of the one preceding it, completing a cycle of care. The caregiving generation returned those efforts made by the older generation when they themselves were younger, and this was done with the expectation that when the current caregivers themselves grew old, the next generation would in turn care for them. Women worked to this system of deferred reciprocity, which meant that the responsibilities of caregiving structured a woman's life. Only the richest families had domestic employees who carried out part of the reproductive labor. The 1960s and 1970s marked a period of upward social mobility in Spain, resulting from increased access to education for men and women. There is a very significant contrast between the older generations and their successors in this respect. In recent years, women have become increasingly expected to take part in the labor market, and double-income families have become the norm. They are therefore less able to provide care, which affect how work is shared with men and change the intergenerational relationships within families. This is particularly true for middle and upper class women who have been able to progress due to their having had access to education, often with the encouragement of their own mothers, who did not want their daughters to have a life dedicated to caring. Women from a lower socioeconomic level, with less educational and professional opportunities, maintain the family ethics that orient their life towards the needs of others and not towards themselves. Conlon et al., 2014. Today's families are diverse and complex: small families, families reconstructed in the wake of divorce, de facto couple, same-sex couple. Geographical mobility has therefore increased in younger generations, which altogether has an impact on the links, arrangement and content of intergenerational relationships. Roager, Soronella 2018. According to Danley and Lynch 2013 page 5, the old and the young alike are implicated in this life course shaping process that involve the reconfiguration of relationships of care, conflict, recognition and exclusion. The moral basis for intergenerational solidarity has changed, Daremir, 2017. The care provided within the family and the negotiated commitments arising from gender and kinship are influenced by public policies on care and service in the market. As Saraceno, 2010, showed, intergenerational solidarity is more necessary in countries with less generous welfare provision, which in turn create an overload on families in terms of their resources, availability and time. This is the case in Spain, which has weak public policy and limited resources. In 2006, Spain passed the Dependency Act, which promoted the creation of economic benefits and care services as a public commitment to tackling the issue of long-term care. In 2008, however, when Spain experienced the effect of the financial crisis and a deep economic recession, austerity measures were implemented, resulting in a major setback in the application of the law. This led to an expansion of market service, a refamiliarisation of care and new burden for women, Deusdad, Daremir, Gerzielewski 2016. The weakness of public policy affects social inequality and exacerbates the crisis of care, which is expressed by the collapse of families and society's capacity to meet a growing need for care. 2. Caring for the elderly, a mosaic of care resources. Spain is a country with a large elderly population, and the family is still the logistical center from which care is deployed and organized. Given the fragility of public policy, care involves putting into play what we have called a mosaic of care resources, which means activating social networks and using care service, day center, dependency aid, home help care service, home help for cleaning, telephone alarm, catering service, nursing home. Daremir, Soronella 2019 page 329. Help from the family, female members especially, is particularly common, as well as help from the community, neighbors and friends. It is also very common to hire caregivers to look after people at home. Families faced with situation of dependent old age consider all of the resources referred to above. Frail old age is managed as a family responsibility, and all available options are considered in the family's negotiation of care. There are 3 key factors affecting the choice of strategy to be adopted by male caregivers in the family environment: the availability of family members who can provide care, whether or not the dependent elderly person lives with one of the members of the family unit, and finally, the socio-economic situation of the care recipient and/or that of their family. The first factor in deciding who will take responsibility for the care of an elderly family member is the availability of other individuals within the family unit in terms of their participation in the paid labor market. Being retired or unemployed, for example, makes one more likely to provide care. This is true of husbands who care for their elderly wives, and who emphasize the complexity and exceptional nature of the work they do. Amen, Calasanti, Bowen 2006. Well, you could say that I spend around 2.5 hours in the morning looking after her, and another 2.5 hours in the afternoon. And the rest is spent on shopping and housework so that the house is more or less free for visitors. 7 days a week. 12 months a year. Of course, if you go on holiday, you take the job with you. Victor 70 years old, retired, wife with mental illness. 4 of the men that we interviewed were unemployed and were responsible for the direct care, at home, of their elderly parents. José Maria is a lawyer and does not have a job. He lives with his mother and his sister, who works. Because he has more time available, he takes care of his sick mother the most. Sons and daughters who care for their parents and have a job must strike a balance between their employment, on the one hand, and providing care in the home, on the other, by mobilizing a wide range of resources, comme a Daremir Soronella 2019. They try, with great care and great difficulty, to patch together these resources in order to meet all of their needs. Public and private care service, help from neighbors, visits from relatives and, very importantly, establishing period of and responsibilities for care distributed among siblings. They are a sort of care manager, at the same time that they are often also involved in providing direct care. Secondly, residential proximity and cohabitation intensify the provision of care, Mandel, Keane 2017. Elderly husbands who care for their wives also live with them, which place them on the front line of care, as opposed to sons and daughters, who have their own family commitments, as we will see in the next section. At night I wake up and I think, what's the matter now? Because when she goes to the bathroom I'm scared in case she falls, or something happens. It's not that I can't sleep. I wake up because of my age, because I have to wake up once or twice a night, but I also wake up when she wakes up. I worry if she takes a long time coming back from the bathroom, and I say to her, "Anne girls, what do you need?" Alphonse, 87 years old, retired, wife with Alzheimer's. Likewise, sons and daughters who live with their parents assume a higher level of responsibilities than their non-resident siblings. Accent Graver IC, 55 years old, employed, was a carer for his father and mother, went to live with his parents when he separated from his wife and ended up taking care of them until they did. He established a system of shift with his 3 siblings, who took turn with the help of hired caregivers. However, Accent Graver IC was responsible for managing the care and established a special relationship with his parents that prevented him from leaving the family home when he would otherwise have been able to do so. The illness really brought me closer to my father. And when I did, I stayed with my mother. It's true that at the time I could have moved out on my own, but I felt bad. When I mentioned the possibility to my mother, I saw it would kill her. She really didn't want to be left all alone. Accent Graver IC, 55 years old, employed, frail elderly mother and father. Finally, the family's economic situation and access to care resources must be taken into consideration. The mosaic care model that uses public and private resources of all types is mainly prevalent among middle-class families who are able to offset the shortcomings of the public sector system with the resources made available by the private sector, mainly by hiring caregivers to complement the care provided by relatives. Jean is the youngest in a family of 5 middle-class siblings, 3 brothers and 2 sisters. He is heavily involved in care. He lives near his parents and is single, and as such does not have the responsibility of a family of his own. Jean organizes care shift for his siblings and manages the 3 people hired to complete the mosaic of care for his elderly ill mother and for his father, who also became a care recipient. We have a lady who comes in at 7 which is when we go to work, until 10 or 11, depending on the day. Then Martha, who is the lady who has been our home help for years, is there from 9 when she starts work until 2. At 2 she leaves them their dinner ready, and my father is there. Someone else comes in just to clean. She only comes in 1 day a week in the afternoon. My father pays because fortunately we don't have any problems in that respect. But coordinating all those people who come in and out certainly isn't easy. Jean, 49 years old, employed, frail elderly mother. Male caregivers, with a low socio-economic status, have to provide care directly while simultaneously trying to access public resources, something that has become difficult with welfare spending during the implementation of the dependency law. Under these circumstances, it is much more difficult to reconcile care with work, and the family or community network must be mobilized much more intensively. 3. The intergenerational negotiation of care. The obligation of kinship and gender are changing in the negotiation of care between generations. The moral foundations of care are no longer based on family ethics, though we did find notable difference between generations in this regard. Older men who take care of their wives are part of the Hinge generation, located between two models of reciprocity, the traditional, familist model based on children taking care of their parents in old age, in which women are the key players, and a new individualizing model, still under construction, of sons and daughters liberated from caring directly for their parents, which the parents themselves have contributed to implementing by enhancing their children's education. The men that make up the Hinge generation were brought up within a generalist model of providing care, in which women performed the caregiving domestic role, while husbands played the role of breadwinner. Of course, if we had both worked, the housework would have been shared out. I was working morning and afternoon. She didn't think we needed her to go to work. At that time, of course, I never changed the children's nappies. I'd have had no problems with doing it if she had gone out to work. She stayed at home and I brought money into the house. But if she'd gone out to work, I would have done what some husbands do. Now it seems like most of them do it and they're pleased to do it, it seems to me. Well, my son and daughters are with the young ones and I see them when my son says to me, "Look, I have to go, it's time for the kids' bath." Sadourny, 79 years old, retired, wife suffers from Alzheimer's. The Hinge generation understands the distribution of care in circular term, from parent to offspring and from offspring to parent. However, they are aware that they are in the midst of a transformation of the model, and that the circuit that would return the care of their offspring is breaking down, a linear trajectory of care from parent to children emerging instead. The parent must in turn anticipate the care they will need in their dependent old age outside of the family, using their own assets instead of saving them to pass on to the next generation, Bachmann 2010. Under test circumstances, and despite the family-based logic, the husbands take care of their wives themselves. They excuse their own children for not being greatly involved in their care, and they consider resorting to a home for senior citizens when it is no longer possible to continue living in the marital home. I tell her his wife, "No, we're going to a nursing home. Your daughter, by her work, can take care of you, and it's the same with your son. Our daughter-in-law is not going to take care of you, she has her job. A daughter could still take care of you, but a daughter-in-law can take care of you. We've accepted that we're going to a home. Sooner or later." Ignacio, 69 years old, retired, wife with mental illness. This transformation does not mean that there is a radical breakdown in the principle of reciprocity that permits the intergenerational circulation of care. There is some return, even when the type of care being exchanged change. While parents cared for their children directly, children now adopt a managerial, logistical role in the care of their elderly parents. These changes are experienced with some tension and ambivalence, due to the contrast between how each generation believes that the other should act. The breakdown of the moral system that underpinned intergenerational reciprocity is particularly disconcerting for the elderly, and for those with limited resources. They consider it a sign that the family and the value system that sustained it are disappearing. The new form of reciprocity are incomprehensible to them, but they insist nonetheless that they do not want to be a burden or depend upon their children. They develop a generational intelligence, Biggs, Appala, Loewenstein 2011, that allows them to act in accordance with the current social climate and the experience and expectation of younger generations. The sandwich generation is made up of the children who take care of their parents, have a paid job, and have children under their care. The care of their elders is carried out while they maintain the responsibilities associated with work and home, Burke 2017, Mandel, King 2017. They represent the value of individualism and material well-being, but also of commitment and duty to their elders. It is a generation in which women are not available to provide care because, like men, they prioritize their professional commitments over being caregivers. In the new family models, the link that has undergone the greatest transformation is that between independent adults and their elderly parents. The obligation of gender have likewise been transformed. A few years ago, for example, daughters were the ones to care for their parents, or women for their in-laws, but not son or son in-law. Because of their lack of time for direct care, their work commitments and their own family responsibilities, offspring who care for their parents make very intensive use of public and private resources. They take on the role of care supervisor, caring about, rather than providing direct care, caring for. They return the care they received from their parents in the form of either the work provided by hired caregivers, their financial situation permitting, or the efficient management of public resources, if they are available, and sometimes both. Marcel rejects the idea of a nursing home and has sufficient financial resources to organize care for his parents in their own home, with the help of his two sisters and of two hired caregivers. The logistics involved in the system of shift has established with his sisters and the caregivers is complex, and they argue that they apply a rational logic, which is unrelated to the idea of parental reciprocity, even when the moral base of reciprocity persists and places him and his sisters in the carer role. I believe that we have to seek help from other people, even when they are not genetic members of the family. In that respect, a thing that call me selfish, call me all overly practical, I think we need to be a little more rational. Marcel, 51 years old, employed, parent in frail old age. Tension and ambivalence also pervade the attitude of male caregivers. On one hand, they assume not only their parents, but above all themselves, to be autonomous, because they participate in a less familist and more individualistic model. At the same time, however, and even in spite of this autonomy, they feel responsible for their elders. They emphasize that their involvement in care derives from their sense of reciprocity and justice, and that this bestow upon their care a greater merit than that of the care provided by women. From an essentialist and dichotomist view of the relationships between gender and care, they consider that women care in a natural way and due to an internal predisposition, whereas they do it a voluntary act based on moral principles, Campbell, Carroll, 2007. They also feel particularly valued by their surroundings because their attitude is considered exceptional and laudable. Gift exchange and reciprocity are thus gendered in care, Daremir, 2017. Husband and son caregivers talk of responsibility and obligation to explain their motivation to become caregivers. Caregiving is an obligation of kinship that is configured by the strict need to perform certain tasks.
Nous espérons que vous avez apprécié cet aperçu. Pour continuer à écouter ce livre audio sur Google Play Livres, utilisez le lien dans la description de la vidéo.